Imagine you're sitting in a crowded room. You look around and everything seems normal. People are laughing, checking their phones, and sipping coffee. But statistically, at least one person in this immediate vicinity possesses a brain wired with a chilling indifference to your existence. They can mimic your smile, mirror your enthusiasm, and offer a comforting hand, all while feeling absolutely nothing. We've been conditioned by Hollywood to look for the blood-stained overalls or the frantic, wild-eyed loner, but the reality is far more scary. The most dangerous predators don't hide in their rooms. They sit in corner offices, lead successful congregations, and perhaps they're even watching this video right now. Today, we're peeling back the mask of the most misunderstood personality disorder in history. Welcome to the cold, calculated world of the psychopath. In everyday conversation, the word psychopath is tossed around loosely to describe a bad date or a difficult boss. This casual use creates a false sense of familiarity, making it seem like psychopathy is lurking around every corner. In reality, while about 30% of the population carries a few cold or impulsive traits, the true clinical psychopath is a much rarer occurrence. Only about 1.2% of people meet the severe criteria required for a diagnosis. This small group possesses a brain wired for a specific kind of efficiency, often born from a mix of genetic coding and early environmental trauma. This biological foundation is what makes the condition so distinct from standard bad behavior. To move from casual labels to clinical accuracy, experts rely on a rigorous auditing system for the human mind. If your life were measured on a 40-point scale of morality, where would the needle stop? The primary tool used to identify this 1.2% is the Psychopathy Checklist, Revised, or the PCLR. Developed by Robert Hare, this test consists of 20 specific items that a professional uses to score an individual's personality. Each trait, from pathological lying to a lack of remorse, is rated on a scale of 0 to 2. A total score of 30 or higher marks the threshold of severe psychopathy. It is a mathematical way of measuring how much a person views the world through the lens of utility rather than empathy. When you look at someone like the real-life financier Bernie Madoff, you see this checklist in action. Madoff didn't spend decades meticulously charming his victims while scoring high on the PCLR traits of manipulation and a grandiose sense of self-worth. In fiction, we see a more violent reflection in American Psycho's Patrick Bateman. While Bateman's gore is cinematic, his real psychopathy lies in the same place Madoff's did, a total inability to see other people as anything more than objects to be used. This shared lack of internal friction allows them to navigate high-stakes environments with a terrifying level of focus. And then there's the emotional vacuum. This focus is rooted in the physical structure of the brain. In most people, the amygdala acts as an emotional smoke detector, firing off signals of fear or guilt when we do something wrong. In a psychopath, this detector is often smaller and less active. They can walk through a crisis that would paralyze a normal person because their brain simply isn't sending the distress signals. This absence of fear provides a massive advantage in competitive environments, turning a void of feeling into a tool for survival. Consider the case of neuroscientist James Fallon. While he was studying the brain scans of serial killers, he accidentally discovered that his own brain showed the exact same lack of emotional activity. Fallon is what we call a pro-social psychopath. He has the biological hardware of a killer, but the life of a successful scientist. This mirrors the fictional Dexter Morgan, who recognizes his lack of humanity and decides to use it toward a specific goal. It suggests that being born without a conscience doesn't automatically create a criminal, it creates a person who is free to choose their path without the burden of emotional consequence. The freedom from emotional burden makes the corporate world a natural habitat for these individuals. We often mistake psychopathic traits like fearlessness and a total lack of pulse-raising anxiety for high-level leadership qualities. This is why you often find a higher concentration of these personalities in the corner office than you do in the general population. They are the ultimate pragmatists, capable of making decisions that would keep a normal human awake for a lifetime. A perfect real-world example is Chainsaw Al Dunlap. He became a corporate legend by ruthlessly gutting companies and firing thousands of employees with a visible sense of satisfaction. He viewed workers as mere numbers on a spreadsheet, much like the fictional Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. Both men embody the idea that empathy is a tax on profit. For them, life is a game of chess where everyone else is a pawn to be sacrificed for the sake of the king. This cold logic allows them to climb the social ladder with a speed that people hampered by a conscience can never match. To stay at the top, the psychopath must master the mask of sanity. Because they don't feel genuine emotion, they become expert observers. They learn exactly how to tilt their head to look empathetic and exactly how much to smile to seem trustworthy. They use love bombing to mirror your deepest desires and insecurities, making you believe you found a soulmate when you've actually just found a predator who has mapped your vulnerabilities. Take the case of the real-life con man Robert Hendy Freegard. He spent years convincing people he was an MI5 spy, stripping them of their money and their freedom through pure psychological manipulation. He didn't have a soul, he had a script. This is the same terrifying precision we see in the fictional Tom Ripley. Ripley realizes that a person is just a collection of habits, and if you can copy the habits, you can steal the life. The psychopath doesn't want to connect with you, they want to absorb you. If you feel like your entire personality is just a series of performances to get what you want, you are standing on the edge of the void. This leads to the most difficult truth about the disorder. It is almost impossible to treat. We want to believe that everyone can be reached with enough therapy or love, but a true psychopath doesn't see themselves as broken. They see their lack of emotion as a liberation. Because they don't feel guilt, they never look back at their actions with regret. They live in a permanent, present tense, driven by impulse and the need for constant stimulation. Traditional therapy can even make them more dangerous as it teaches them new ways to mimic empathy and manipulate others. This is the moral void that experts like Marsh describe. It's the same energy we see in the fictional Joker, not a man seeking a goal, but a man seeking a thrill. In the real world, this manifests as a trail of broken promises and ruined lives. While treatments like behavioral skills training exist, they require a level of motivation that a person who feels no ownership of their problems rarely possesses. Psychopathy isn't an official diagnosis in the DSM-5. Instead, it falls under the umbrella of antisocial personality disorder. But when a high score on the PCLR is present, the label becomes a chilling reality. It is a spectrum where many of us reside at the lower end, occasionally being selfish or cold. But at the severe end, the person is fundamentally different. They are the 1.2% who use our own human emotions as a weapon against us. As you walk away from this video, the faces in that crowded room won't look the same. You'll find yourself watching the smiles a little closer, checking for the superficial charm, or the lack of a startled response. But the truth is, the most successful psychopaths don't want you to be afraid. They want you to be comfortable. They want you to trust them, because the moment you trust them is the moment you become useful. And in their world, utility is the only thing that matters. The probability of you being a severe psychopath is low, but the probability that you've already met one is almost certain. So, as the screen fades, ask yourself, when you see the pain of another person, do you feel it in your chest, or do you just see a series of data points? The answer to that question is the only thing standing between you and the void. Watch the people around you, but more importantly, watch the person in the mirror.